Hello, welcome to the Management channel. My name is Jacques Alexis. I'm a faculty here in the leadership and project management domain in CPS. In this video, part 2, I'm going to talk about some of the key concepts covered in Foundation of Project Management. So, one of the concepts we talk about is three-point estimate or multi-point estimate. So three-point estimate is a method used to determine cost or activity duration by applying an average or a weighted average of minimum, most likely, and maximum estimate when there is uncertainty with the individual activity estimates. So what are some examples I can give you here? And why do we use three-point estimates or multi-point estimates? So the hard idea is to improve what we call single point or deterministic estimates by considering uncertainty. So the expected duration of an activity, in case we're working with time, can assume a triangular or a beta probability distribution. So that's also your opportunity to use probabilistic estimates. So if you have three-point estimate, the mean value of a triangular distribution is given by a simple average. It's the mean plus the most likely number plus the maximum estimate divided by 3. Simple average. If the mean value of a beta distribution is what you're using, then you have a weighted average. It's the mean plus 4 times the most likely estimate plus the maximum estimate divided by 6. So to my left, that's an example of triangular distributions. As you can see here, I have 3 values for estimates, 4, 9, and 31 for an activity. And to my right is a beta cut distribution. So the key difference here, as you can see, is the tail of the distribution. So when using a beta cut estimate, what does it mean really? This means you have more confidence in the most likely number. So that's what you practically say. But when it's come to model uncertainty in project cost and project schedule, those 2 distributions are actually a very good fit to do that. Leadership. So leadership is another concept we cover in PGM 5900. So we cover hard skills like scheduling, critical path method, etc. But we also talk about leadership, leading, what it's all about. Leading means influencing project team members to achieve the objective of the project. Leadership is about the ability to inspire confidence and support among your team members. What to remember is that leadership is a social process and involves various interpersonal processes, including motivating, inspiring, communicating, coaching, energizing, directing, persuading, and creating a vision for the project team. All of these interpersonal processes. We also differentiated between power and authority. Power is the ability or potential to influence decisions and control resources. It's the ability of the leader or the manager to get things done. Personal variables such as talent or charm help achieve power within a project team or within organizations. Authority, on the other hand, is the formal right to get people to do things or the formal right to control resources. The important thing here is that only the organization can grant authority. However, you can have power without authority. And that's the difficult thing to achieve in project management. However, you can achieve that, to have power without authority. So types of power in organizations. French and Raven, two researchers, have identified 5 sources of power within organizations. So here you have legitimate power or position power. It is the authentic right of a leader to make certain types of requests. Legitimate power stems from one's positions within an organization. Reward power is a leader's control over rewards or value to team members. It derives from wealth and access to resources. Coercive power is a leader's control over punishments. Can you punish team members? Expert power derives from a leader's job-related knowledge as perceived by group members. Having specialized skills, knowledge, or talent, for example. Refined power refers to the ability to control based on loyalty to the leader and the group members' desire to please that person. Having charisma, for example, the ability to connect with people, to develop networks and social relations, can give you refined power. So I group expert power and refined power because these are the 2 types of power project managers can possess. Project managers do not usually have any legitimate power or reward power or coercive power. But if you are knowledgeable, if you have specialized skills, if you can connect with people, build networks and social relations at your job, then you can actually have these 2 types of power. Accountability versus responsibility. I think these are 2 key concepts we covered in management. Accountability and responsibility are not the same. Responsibility is the duty or obligations to perform. Accountability is the duty to account for the fulfillment of the responsibility. Simply put, accountability is authority plus responsibility. In other words, you're in a position to delegate responsibility and authority to someone else to do a job. However, you can't delegate accountability. So the person who's accountable for project work should be the one giving the go, no go signal and a phase review process if you're using phase gates in your project. We also covered the critical path method, CPM. It is a method used to estimate the minimum project duration and to determine the amount of schedule flexibility on the logical paths within the project model. So what you're looking at my screen here is what we call an activity on node diagram. We talk about activity on node, but here I'm giving you an example of an activity on node. So when you create a network diagram, it tells you the flow of work, but the most important part is to be able to find the critical path of the project, right? So the way to do that is to find all the paths going from left to right, top to bottom. As you can see here, I have path A, B, D, G, H, and I add the duration of each activity to give me the length of the path. And the other path here is ACEH. ACEH, the duration is 100, and another third path is ACFH, the duration is 65. So The critical path is the longest path in time in the network. And in this case, the longest path, the critical path, is ACEH. It's not the path with the largest amount of activities, but the path with the longest path in time. So that's what we're talking about here. So useful formulae to learn. EF here, if you take a look at the legend, ES means early start, and you have early finish, you have slack time, late start, late finish, and you have durations here according to the legend. So useful formulae to remember: early finish is early start plus duration. Late start is late finish minus duration. Simple linear equation. You can move any of the variable from one side or the other to find what you need. Slack time is LS minus ES or LF minus EF. Right. So activities on the critical path have zero slack time. So that's how you set up this project to work. So this is the assumptions we make in foundations of project management and in the entire project management program. Activities on the critical path will have zero slack time. Okay, so resource loading versus resource leveling. So resource leveling is the process of assigning resources to project activities. Resource assignment may create what we call peaks and valleys in workloads. For example, Daisy is working 65 hours in week 9 and 30 hours in week 10. And Daisy is available to work 40 hours a week. So resource leveling is the process of eliminating the peaks and valleys in the project schedule to create a balanced workload for Daisy. It shifts activities within the slack. It minimizes fluctuations in the resource demand created by the project. But why do you want to do that? It is very important because it improves employee morale. It reduces administrative costs. And it can help you create what we call a level cost of resources. And Daisy can work in project management and still have a life. So that's what this is all about. All right. So sources of information for measuring actual project performance. Where do you refine information so that this information can come from many sources? And here we talk about 4 sources of information. Personal observations. In the old days, we used to go to the shop floor or to the cafeteria, talk to team members to collect information. It's called management by walking around or by wandering around, MBWA. So other ways to collect information will be taking a look at the project statistics in the case of Microsoft Project, if you're using that. All reports, that meetings, for example, written reports include budget and schedule reports, progress reports, status reports, project audit, and earned value reports. Those are different ways you can collect information when you're trying to measure your performance. So we briefly talk about risk management. We didn't go into detail, but we know what a risk is. A risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives. Just the idea, the modern view of risk, that it can have a positive or negative effect. In his book, Risk, Uncertainty and Profit, published in 1921, very long time ago, Frank Knight defined a risk as a future event with a measurable probability. So although Frank didn't look at risk, in a holistic way as we do today, but his definitions are actually extremely important today. We know a risk has three key components: a cause, a chance, that is a probability, and consequence or consequences. So whenever we talk about risk, we have to think about those three key components of a risk. Cause, what causes the risk to occur? What is the risk driver? Chance, what is the probability for the risk to occur? If the probability is 1% or let's say 1.5%, I might want to take this risk. But if the risk is, let's say, 30% and is going to have certain level of impact on my project, I want to make sure that I know how I'm going to mitigate it. And consequences, what is the impact of those on the objective of the project? So quality, we talk about quality. Quality is defined by the International Organizations for Standardizations. It is the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfill requirements, right? So requirements are defined by stakeholders, example, customers or market demand. A quality project plan starts with collections of requirements. A quality product or service reflects the voice of the customer in the design and manufacturing process. Now, all of these can be translated to the figure to the right? And when I start looking at my product or the scope of my project by trying to understand the end user, by trying to understand industry standards, by trying to understand the stakeholder requirements. And I translate those requirement standards and input into functional design, features and functions. And then when I do have a design for my product, I send it to the production department, and this is where they produce my prototype or my product using quality assurance and quality control to create a final product, right? So what else we talk about? We talk about dimensions of product quality. We identify 8 dimensions of product quality from Professor David Garvin in an article published in 1987. And those dimensions define here some objective and some subjective. They are conformance, serviceability, reliability, features, performance, perceived quality, durability, and aesthetics. So we're not going to go into the definitions, but what I want here is to remind you what we cover. If you're a product developer or if you're a project manager, you need to understand those dimensions of quality. I updated these dimensions of quality to add sustainability dimensions, for example, to add impact of the product on the environment and on society. So that's what we call sustainable design. Dimensions of service quality: tangible, reliability, responsiveness, empathy, and assurance. Now, what you need to know here, tangible doesn't mean that the service is tangible, but it means the physical appearance of the service facility, the equipment, the personnel, and the communications material that we're using to deliver the service. So these are dimensions of service quality, remember. So we also talk about a Pareto chart when we cover project executions and control. To control the scope of a project, we might use a Pareto chart. A Pareto chart is actually a bar chart displaying observations in order of decreasing frequency. It gives you the opportunity to identify the largest opportunity for improvement in a process, and it is very good for classifying complaints. and defects in your project. So that's an example of a Pareto chart. So the cause and effect diagram is if you identify a problem using your Pareto chart, you can actually use a cause and effect diagram to find the root cause. Cause and effect diagrams called it's also called a fishbone diagram because of its shape, or an Ishikawa diagram, right? So what you start with the main causes. This could be people, material, machine, or process. You could say measurement and environment as well, but that's how you start. And we use 5 whys to develop the diagram. Control charts, I have some example here for you. Control charts help determine whether a process is in statistical process control, that is stable over time. So a process is stable if it does not exhibit unpredictable variations over time, that is, it is consistent over time. We know the sources of variations already. They could be material, machine, method, or process, measurement, people, and environment. So the whole idea of the control chart is to make sure that data points are within the control limits. There is an upper and lower control limit. As you can see, this is a process that is out of control because we have many points outside the control limits. So that's a problem. This is a situation where you want to stop and investigate your process. And here you have a stable process because the data points are within the control limit. So basic statistics such as mean, standard deviations, and range are needed to create a control chart because the center line, the green line here, is the average or the mean of the data if we use historical data to create the control chart. So the upper and lower control limits are called sigma limits because they are placed 3 sigma from the mean. Lower, upper control limit. So we also talk about basics of n-value analysis. We did not cover n-value analysis in detail, but we talk about what are the basic things to know in n-value analysis. N-value analysis is an integrated project management system based on the earned value concept that uses a time phase budget baseline to compare actual and planned schedule and cost. So the project earned value based on the status date here, you look at that. If actual cost is higher than earned value, then the project is over budget. If planned value is higher than earned value, then you say the project is behind schedule. All right, so it's simple and very useful. So project communications management, we talk about that. Communications management is the systematic planning, implementing, monitoring, and revisions of all channels of communications within a project organization, right? And this definition was provided by Lehman and Dufrene in 2019. Project communication can be divided into 2 parts. First, you need to develop a strategy to ensure that communications is effective for stakeholders. And 2, you carry out the activities necessary to implement the communication strategy. So there are here 6 key things to know in a project communication system. So you're going to have a sender, the person who originates the message, a receiver, the person for whom the message is intended, the medium, the channel through which the message flows. Example include phones, letters, emails, and social media, feedback, acknowledgement to the sender that the message was correctly understood, symbols, the way the message is encoded, examples, words, sounds, gestures, etc. The message is the information being sent or receive. So methods of communications, 3 methods of communications here. Interactive communications include meeting, conference calls, etc. Push communications includes memos, reports, emails, text messages, faxes. Don't think people send faxes anymore, but these are examples of push communications. Pull communications include intranet sites, knowledge repositories, internet sites, etc. So it's mean you put this information somewhere and you tell people where it is, they can come and get it. So what else we talk about? We talk about communication channels. An important aspect of information distribution is the number of people involved in a project or in the communication process. What to know is that as the number of people involved increases, the complexity of communications also increases. Number of communication channels increases with the increasing number of people. That's what we mean by that. So a simple formula for calculating the number of communication channel is here, that's n times n minus 1 divided by 2. We're going to show you how that works. Now, if you have two people, you'll have 1 communication channel, but 4 people, you'll have 6 communication channels. So it would be a good idea if you have a project, large project, you could break it down to smaller group or smaller team. Now, in the case of, let's say, a single purpose vehicle or single purpose company, which is a large project, what you can do is to divide it into teams or into subdivisions where people can work in smaller teams within the organizations. So coordinations will be obviously extremely important. Now, here's an example here from Lehman and Dufrene. You can see here, 2 people, 1 communication channel, 4 people, 6 communication channel, 3 people, 3 communication channel, etc. So that's going to be all for this video. Here are some of the references are used to create this content and content in PGM 1500 Foundations of Project Management. These are very good reads. If you have time and you have the opportunity to read, please, I invite you to start reading. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Subscribe to the channel to receive an alert when the next video is available. Thank you for watching.